being part of a family organization even puts a lot of pressure, right? There's no escape plan. There's no plan B. You're in it for the long haul.
Welcome to Padayon, a Cebu businessman podcast where we celebrate the brightest mind of the Philippines. I'm your host, Brian Yap, but before we start, please follow us on our socials, Padayon, a Cebu businessman podcast. Please help me welcome the visionary leader who's taking Cebu Businessman 2025 to bold new heights, our CBM 2025 overall chairman, Mr. Anton Perdices. Let's start with the conversation to, no? I've heard that, Manggod, nga you need to speak 5 languages for you to be able to work in the Aboitiz. Is that true?
5 languages, no. But what they really push for is for us to understand and speak the local language in the businesses we operate in. So if you're mostly based in Manila, Tagalog. If you're based in Cebu like myself in Mindanao, Bisaya. The reason they do that, and it makes sense, right? It's when you speak the local language, it makes the relationship a lot closer. You feel that you're from the same culture, you have the same, ideas, likes, wants. So it really makes it become a more personal level rather than somebody who doesn't speak English and you don't speak Bisaya. The conversation becomes a lot different and it's parang you get distance.
Does that only apply to being in a family in the Aboitiz, or does it actually applies to literally when you actually work?
It's when you work. It's when you work, right?
So any employee, they need to be able to speak the language.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, in business, a lot of it is relationships, right? And if you can't speak the same language, it's very hard to develop a relationship. I mean, if you do international business, you have a translator, it's not the same than the two of you guys speaking it. And as you mentioned before, it's not just a language thing, it's a culture thing, right? As Cebuanos, we're very different than the people in Manila. We have these idiosyncrasies that we can only understand, these sayings that we can only understand, these catchphrases that we can only understand, right? So it's really being there and being local that opens up the business opportunities to everybody.
So Ton, I have not, known you long enough yet, but knowing you for almost a year now, I know you're so busy. Like literally your schedules are like, if we have a meeting at 2 o'clock, you have to be on time at 2 o'clock. But if you're not working, what do you really do? Like what activities do you like to do?
Well, on the weekends, I try to slow down when I can. But again, work gets in the way also on the weekends. So it's really simple things in life and already, right? It's like having good food, good wine with good friends, and not in like lavish parties. I like intimate dinners, uh, getting out in the golf course. It's more of like walking. I don't have any pressure. That's why I don't like to bet when I play golf. I just want to have a good time, hit as many balls as I want, play whatever holes I want, and just spending time with the family, especially now that my children are growing up and a lot of them are, the two of them are already abroad. My daughter's going to Singapore in August, so we're going to be an empty nest. So it's really spending time with the family, right? That's important.
So what's your go-to restaurant in Cebu?
Very few, man. Anything in Crossroads is a go-to.
Because it's closer?
Yeah, that's number one. 88 as well. Between Crossroads, 88, those two, I'm happy.
Any specific cuisine? I mean, like when you go out, who picks the restaurant? Is it you or is it the kids?
We have a democracy in the family, thankfully enough, right? Sometimes they listen to me, but majority of the time it's them who chooses. But the good thing is we all have the same taste, right? So we gravitate more towards Japanese, Korean barbecue, Italian, Filipino. So I love all foods, right? So
I want to talk about early days of yourself. Now, I'm not going to talk about high school. I'm not going to talk about high school, but was really going into the family business part of your plan?
not at all. I basically was given the opportunity to work to go to school abroad, and I went to the US. I got my degree in management information systems, and the only reason why I chose that degree was because I asked in the college, what is like the in thing now that'll get me a job the fastest? And they said technology. This was in the early 90s, right? During the dot-com boom.
The dot-com boom.
The dot-com boom. I lived through that. The boom and the bust. So I did get MIS, and a lot of my jobs were in the technology field, IBM, Nortel Networks. And in fact, prior to coming back to Cebu, I was with Convergys. And when I was there, I came home one Christmas and I saw converges all over the place. So I asked my boss if there's a possibility that I could be relocated to the Philippines as an expat in Cebu, right? Free house, free education, everything to work for Converges. But life had different plans. And my uncle told me, it's time to come back and work for the family. We were at a different life then already. I was married, I had 2 children, the kids were growing up. And it's really nice to be, surrounded by your family, your extended family, which we had a lot more here rather than in the US for a support structure.
But was this really like, what was really your first childhood dream? Like when I say child, when you were in elementary or high school, or even when you were going to college. So what was that childhood dream for you?
Well, I really got into IT, right? So the dream back then was to be a CIO of a really successful organization. And living, so I graduated in Baltimore, then I moved to Miami. And my job in Miami was traveling all over South America.
So you really got your childhood.
Yeah, in the beginning, but not the CIO role, right? It became more of HRIS. But then when I started traveling around South America, it made me realize that there's a lot more this world has to offer than just Cebu.
So going back, if you had to go back today, like what would that dream, considering you've seen also, you've traveled all around the world, you've seen what are the opportunity, what would it still be in IT, or it would be something else?
I really enjoy my job today where I am because running all the distribution utilities of the Aboitiz group really makes an impact in everyday lives, right? Like if there were no power, we wouldn't be having this, right? And I really felt the importance, especially when Odette hit, when I got so many calls, please help. And I really like helping people.
And thank you to that. Thank you to the Aboitiz group that, really got our power really, really fast.
Yeah, it was a team effort. I mean, it was not just me, right? We had not just support within the Aboitiz group, but we have all the different distribution utilities around the Philippines who sent people to help us because that's a good thing about the Philippines, right? We have an organization. It's called PEPOA, all the private utilities grouped together. And whenever there is a calamity, the ones that are not affected send their employees to help. So we've sent several people to Albay, to Batangas, even to Davao, right? So it's a good family that really helps.
I asked you about your childhood dream, Tono, but I also want to ask, like, I'm sure you got your first job way, way back when you were young, but what was the first thing that you actually bought? And what were you doing at that time? What was that job?
I was still actually in grade school, and my father was in charge of the industrial gas business unit of Aboitiz. It was called Quaco back then, Cebu Oxygen and Acetylene Company. And I guess they wanted to instill a mindset of being a business person from a very young age. So during summers, we'd go there and we'd work there and we'd learn how to fill up the tanks with gas, roll the cylinders. And I think, if I recall correctly, my first paycheck, I used it to buy bubble gum.
So how much was your first paycheck?
Oh, I don't even remember. It couldn't be much.
So you were really encouraged to really work during summer stuff.
Yeah.
You were not just like, during summer, you go lounge around
No,
or become
no.
a bub. You were really trained. to
And
become-
I've started working since I was you know, it's not, you could probably even call it child labor, right? Because I wasn't even a teenager yet, doing odd jobs in the office. And then when I went to college, I also was working. Like I worked in the cafeteria, I worked in the library. So, it's always nice to feel that you're doing some kind of contribution to help support yourself, right?
How do you think, being part of the Aboitas really, Ton, like, really help you as a, businessman or a leader today?
Well, being part of a family organization even puts a lot of pressure, right? There's no escape plan, there's no plan B. You're in it for the long haul, right? And I remember when I first came back, I was interviewed by a lot of my uncles who were sitting in the board, right? And the first thing they all unanimously said was, we're looking for commitment, right? If you're going to work for the family, it's not going to be one of these, yeah, I'm going to check it out. And if I don't like it, I'll just go back to the US, right? So I said, yeah, no, I'm here committed. And that's the difference, I think, and you would know, owning a business or working for a business. Owning a business, there's no escape, right? Working for a business, if you don't like it, you'll say, I'll just resign and I'll go somewhere else. You can't. So you got to make it work. You got to make sure that you're enjoying it. You got to make sure that another thing that I was taught from day one was the chairman back then, the late John Ramon Aboitiz, said, if there's one thing that I can tell you, is make sure you take care of your people because they are the secret to your success. And I've always lived with that.
So when you came work for the family business, Ton, so what was your first job when you actually came in?
So when I started, it was with the construction group, and they had me in charge of international marketing, I guess because of the international experience I had in South America, right? And the first thing I told my uncle was like, I'm not an engineer, right? He's like, don't worry, we're gonna make you an ME Murag engineer, right? So he's like, look at me. I was a philosophy or psychology major, and now I'm running this construction company. You will learn. Same thing happened when they pulled me out of construction and they put me into the power distribution. I didn't know anything about power, but they said, sige lang, dagan kay kag mga engineer diya, they will help you, right? So that's where I really learned that, you have to.
Nervous? Were you nervous, Ton?
Oh, yes, I was. Yes, I was. There was a difference in running the operations of a construction company to running the operations of a power distribution utility, where it's a very public company. You have to deal with a lot more stakeholders, all the LGUs. I was, next thing I'm in offices of the governor, of the mayor, trying to solve problems. So it became like a very political big step for me that I had to really sink or swim.
So you were in technology, like you were in MIS. So when you came into the Aboitiz, did you actually bring that kind of mindset that you want to bring in technology to really transform the whole group? And how was that transition?
It helped me in a way that when I came here, there were things that I could offer in terms of technology, right? The different systems that I've been exposed to in the US, the different procedures that we did, the concept of manager self-service, employee self-service, that wasn't here. So that's one of the things that I was really trying to push, and even up to today. And I'm very glad that our leader, Sabin, has realized that, you have to really embrace technology. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind.
So going to that, I recently saw an interview on Sabine that Aboitiz is being positioned as the first tech conglomerate. What made you guys as a group really push to go tech conglomerate? Now, not a lot of companies are still very open to really even transforming. And I've seen you guys even in Union Bank, you transformed the whole digital banking system. What made you make the decision to really go all in with that?
Well, Sabin's been exposed to a lot, right? So I think he saw the writing on the wall that we have to really get into technology to improve productivity, to improve efficiency. Otherwise, we're going to be left behind. The competition's going to come take over. And using the bank as an example, right? We were like one of the first ones to really place a lot in the app, but you got to keep raising that bar because all the other banks saw it and followed suit, right? And that's also with all the different businesses that we have. Like now in our power distribution, we have an app, right? And we're trying to get everybody on board.
The VECO app.
Yes, because we don't see, like I personally, and I've witnessed it, I would go to our service centers and I'd see people lining up for like 30 minutes waiting to pay a bill. And in this day and age, things happen so fast. And it's like, I don't understand. I'd ask people, ano maghuwat mo diri sa linya nga makabayad ra mo sa telepono dali ra kayo. Di na kakanihanglan mo adto diha, And they're like, wala, ganahan rami. And, trying to change that mindset where, there's only a finite number of hours in a day, right? So spend it wisely. Don't waste your time nga maglinya ra ka, maghuwat ra ka diha. On any time in the comfort of your own home, you just open the app, hala bayad, boom, human.
How long have you been working, Todd? From really working professionally, and from working with the Aboitiz?
So my professional career started in 1994, and then I started working in Aboitiz in 2008. So do the math.
And I'm bad with math. I'm not even
So
gonna
am I,
compute.
yeah.
So during this time lang, Ton,
14 years.
what was really the most challenging journey that you actually had, and how did you fix it?
I think the biggest challenge in my career was actually when I started with the construction business, right? The construction industry is really, it's a vicious cycle. Um, Going for a job, right? Making sure you price the job correctly, executing the job, making money, and collecting the payment for that job. And once you're done, it's a vicious cycle and it starts all over again, right? So can you imagine me with no background in engineering, having to meet with clients to talk to them about the different types of steel, the different types of cement, curing procedures. It was just, I had to learn fast, you know. I'm lucky I had engineers with me. I would take that if the questions became too technical, I would always refer to their experience. And all this with leading people, right? And also adjusting to the Filipino culture because in the US it's very fast
Yeah, you were
paced,
used to there.
right? So having to deal with all that was just like information
So
overload.
how
But
did you do it?
you had to do it, man. No choice. Sink or swim, like I said, right?
So, Ton, you're the overall chairman for Cebu Businessman. Why did you say yes to this role?
Walay balibaray is the ongoing motto in the chamber. And I think it was I started out as the vice chairman, right? When I met Reagan King, who was the then previous chairman, we got to know each other well because our two kids are going to the same school in Singapore. And when he got the overall chairman role, I told him, hey, you know, we're here to support you because we really care about Cebu, right? Aboitiz is synonymous with Cebu. We've been here since the very beginning, and all we really care about is the growth. Little did I know that he's like, okay, you be the vice chairman. And that was kind of a good way to get me into it, to see what it's all about, to see where I can help. And then lo and behold, he says, oh, by the way, next year, ikaw na yung chairman. Ha? And I was like, okay, okay na lang, right? What tayo mahimo? Voluntold, right? So, but you know, again, to me, it helps that there's a strong team, like you're part of it as well. And it's all, you know, the magic in it is it's all voluntary work. So it's really about people caring about the progress of Cebu. And that's where Cebu Business Month to me comes in, where, you know, we try to offer different forums in the different industries, the different sectors, where the members can come in and learn and at the same time network with each other to do business with each other. Right? It's an ecosystem. We need to feed off of each other. Right? It's better off keeping it within the group, right, within the Cebuanos.
Because I think, and yeah, I've been with Cebu Businessman for quite a while already before with Reagan, with JP. But you literally explain what really happens in Cebu Businessman, but can you really explain it in a very simplest form to our viewers also, to other businesses? Why should they be joining Cebu Businessman and what really happens?
So, in a nutshell, it's really a venue for people to network, to get to know other people, to get to know other businesses. You know, your business is only as successful to me, I believe, as how big your network is, who you can run to if you need assistance, who can be a potential customer. So that's really what it is, right? We really want the different members to network with each other, to get to know each other. That way, it's a really tight group. And once you become friends with people, your tendency is to really help them in their business, help them grow their business. So that's what we really want for Cebu Business Month, right?
So we're not just talking about local business, we're even talking about like even people from Manila, people from the Mindanao who wants to be able to do business in Cebu.
Yes. And that's why we have the in the Cebu chamber the concierge to help, not just the members but anybody, right? Because the age old saying, you know, united we stand, divided we fall, right? We're stronger, strength in numbers, right?
How many people do you lead now?
Phew. Direct employees, the last count was just in the power distribution alone, about 800 people is under my organization, right? And then we have the construction group, that's another maybe 200. So close to 1,000.
So what's your leadership style? Managing 800 to, to 1,000 is not an easy feat.
You know, at the level that I'm in, it's really all about supporting my leaders, right? Helping them be successful with giving them the tools and the access to whatever they need to make them successful. I can't manage 800 people directly, right? I really believe in empowerment. Give them the authority to make the decisions. That way they learn to become leaders. And, you know, eventually through time, they can rise up the corporate ladder.
So it's the same to how you actually manage as in Cebu Business One.
Yeah, all about delegation. I can't do it all.
So what do you consider like, you've been at it for a few months already. What do you think is considered the biggest challenge in preparation for CBM?
My worry is always finding ways to support and motivate the members of the team to give it their best and to be there in presence, right? Like I said, all of us have our own individual businesses. So I can't thank the team enough that they're going on this journey with us to make sure that, we make Cebu Business Month successful, not just for us, but for the members of the Cebu Chamber and for potential members of the Cebu Chamber to really show that, we really care about the future success of Cebu, not just individually, but Cebu Inc., for lack of a better word, right? The whole Cebu. And we've seen it how our neighboring islands are overtaking us in Bohol, in Iloilo. So it's high time that we really get our act together and with the help of the government, do the private and the public to work together to really achieve what we want, and that's to make Cebu be the number one again and grow.
So considering what's happening globally now, with technological landscape changing, with political landscape changing, what are your long-term goals for Cebu Businessman?
I'd like it to be as flexible as possible to address the ever-changing challenges and risks that business face. Right now, the main focus is technology, you know, entrepreneurship, how to build your businesses, anime. Now we're looking at food security. Next year, it could be, I don't know, the AI challenges, additional challenges in AI, whatever other climate changes, if it's going to really affect the business. So to have the flexibility to address the concerns that impact the growth of businesses and to get the right people to come speak, to coach, to give ideas to other growing businesses to inspire them to know that there are challenges, but here are possible solutions to help you grow your business.
So I think what's also important also here, Ton, like when Reagan started about last year, there was really a good succession. Like the program Reagan started and what you're actually doing, and like even what you're actually telling me now, that's really the long term vision. So how do you make sure that you actually find the right successor for you for the next CBM chair? And what are the leadership or I would say traits that you are looking for?
Well, number one, it's really a passion to do this, right? Like I said, there's a lot of extra hours that you need to put into your day and you're not getting paid for it, right? So that's really a passion and a caring for Cebu City, right? And Cebu province as well, not just the city, because the chamber encompasses the whole island of Cebu. So it's got to be somebody who possesses leadership skills and who can really motivate people to be aligned with what your vision is in what you want Cebu Business Month to be, not just next year, but passing the baton on that it becomes successful in the next 10 years.
So, what do you consider your greatest legacy in your professional career?
The fact that I am responsible for the livelihood of more than, I would say, 3 million people by giving them, sustainable, affordable power to be able to do what they need to do in their everyday lives to make them successful.
What do you think your greatest legacy for CBM's 2025?
I want their people to come out of it to say, wow, that was a really good year. We had a lot of learnings. We made a lot of connections in the network to help us grow our business. And we had a lot of fun. Just those three simple asks.
So, CBM is starting this coming June, July, August, and might spill over September. I know we're trying to, get it back to just 1 month to 2 months, but can you give us a sneak peek of the speakers that are actually going to be coming for these events?
So last year we stuck to the 1 month in June, right? And you were there as well. And my first ask was, guys, can we not make it sabay-sabay because people get conferenced out? Let's spread it out through a couple of months. Lo and behold, those couple of months, it's going to be sabay-sabay, but at least they're going to be shorter, right? As in terms of speaker, we really wanted people that could make big impacts, right? So I've voluntold my boss, Sabine Aboitiz, Secretary Go. We have John Rubio from Meta. We have Louis from Megawide. So we have a lot of very good speakers coming both locally and from Manila and even international. I won't say this. I won't say who they are. Keep it as a surprise so that'll entice people to come see us.
Like, who are the type of people that you think that should be attending our events?
These are people who really are wanting to learn about what's going on in the world and want to learn of how they can expand and grow their businesses and wanting to network with other like-minded individuals to really see about growing their business at the end of the day.
So, let's jump to the more casual conversation and casual talk now. This was never part of my questions, Tono, and I know you're basically managing like close to 1,000 people. How do you manage your kids?
You know, I kind of like I am who I am, right? So the way I manage my kids is the same way I manage my employees. You gotta show a lot of empathy, right? If they do something wrong, you have to tell them they did something wrong. I don't just like shouting at them. I like to have a heart-to-heart conversation with them, so that at the end of the day, when the conversation is done, they know what they did wrong, but yet they feel like I've been giving a second chance, and I'm going to work at doing better for myself.
Do you expect them to also follow your same footstep to be part of the family business?
No. My kids, it's up to them what they want to do. I've always told them, you're the master of your destiny. You choose what you want to do.
So there's no pressure, but there was pressure for you to join the family business.
Well, after 18 years, right? And I had the opportunity to say no if I wanted to, right? If I were asked maybe a couple of years right after I graduated, I probably would have said no because I was just having such a great time in Florida, traveling all over South America, the US, learning, so much learnings, dealing with different cultures. So, and I think they realized that. That's why they said, okay, keep going. They were monitoring me. I remember my father would tell me, my uncles would always ask, oh, what's your son up to nowadays? What's he up to nowadays? So maybe that was their way of saying, let him
Let him learn.
experience,
Let
let
him
him learn. Yeah.
experience. Then reel him back in
Yeah.
when it's
What
ready,
the right time. Yeah.
with the right time. Okay, so what was the last Filipino street food that you actually ate? And which among of those free street food that you really are your favorites?
Cebuano, man, lechon, right? It's all about lechon. I was fortunate enough to be taken to a place in Talisay by a friend where the lechon literally comes still in the pole. They pull it out, they split it in half, they throw it on your table, super punko punko with your hands and the rice and the lechon.
So
And
you're a true blue Cebuano by heart.
oh yeah, I love all the lechon, the dinuguan, the fish ball, all the good stuff that we grew up with.
What was the last book that you read, and what was the best book that you read also?
The last book that I read was my cousin Carlos gave it to me. It's called Essentialism, and I think it really applies. It's by Greg McCowan, I believe his name is, right? Where it's like there's not enough hours in the day. So you really have to focus on what is essential in the business, right? So again, delegation. So you can really focus on what really moves the needle, as we call it in our group, right? And it's interesting how that book says, so you focus on the essential stuff that really grows the business, but then you become a victim of your success. You get more business, so you need to focus more. So you have to really get that balance, right? And another thing also it says is also to take care of yourself, right? Sleep well, eat well, have healthy relationships, which I think is very important.
So how many hours of sleep do you actually have?
I try to pull in 7 hours, 7, 8 hours. That's what they say the good balance is 7.5, 8 hours. And I can really feel it. If I go on like 4 or 5 hours a day, it's like you struggle.
So what's your sleeping position?
I normally sleep on my side, but sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night on my back or on the other side. So I guess it rotates to keep the blood moving.
You actually mentioned that uh during if you're not doing anything, you like to eat, you like to go out. But when you're stressed, what do you do?
Take walks, walking in the golf course. That's why I enjoy golf, right? Not as a competitive sport, but just to go out and just breathe the air, look at the clouds, and just refocus and just be 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 at the moment, be in the moment. Not like worry about what's happening tomorrow or what did I do. Just be at the moment and enjoy the simple pleasures in life, which that one outdoors.
So if you were to die tomorrow, Anton, like what would be your last meal and why?
And number one on my list is Japanese food. That's a lot of Filipinos, right? So a really nice kaiseki meal with just like multiple courses of different kinds of the sushis, the sashimis, the yakitoris, the onigiris, everything.
Why Japanese don? Like, is there any?
I don't know. My palate just agrees with it. I guess it's because of the simplicity and the quest for really good fresh ingredients, right? I mean, I love Filipino food, but it's rich. It's a lot of sauce, a lot of salt, and Japanese food's very healthy food, right?
So lastly, Ton, if you were going to give advice to the young adults now, what would be that advice?
Suck it in, man. Take as much information, as much experience as you can, and just enjoy the ride, Make the right decisions. You're not always going to make the right decisions. Learn from your mistakes, but always have a positive outlook in life and say that I am where I am because I want to be where I am. And that's it. And enjoy life.
When you retire, what will you do?
I will probably bounce between Cebu and Dumaguete because my father's side of the family is from Dumaguete. My wife's from Dumaguete. And, walk around and just explore, experience life and take it nice and slow. Flip-flops, shorts, t-shirt, and just chill.
Any last words for our audience, Ton?
I hope that you all can attend. There'll be lots of exciting activities. We'll be posting it online on what those activities are going to be. We have very interesting speakers. So I hope you can support the Cebu Chamber by attending these events and make sure you really network and get to know everybody in the chamber. Thank you very much.
So I think that ends our podcast now. This has been Brian saying goodbye and Padayon Cebu.